You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us again this week. This week, we have a very special guest. Once a month, we typically bring on a guest expert, and our guest expert for this month is Becky Kopitzke. Becky, she blogs and she does a whole bunch of things at theinspiredbusiness.co. And I had the opportunity to meet Becky just a few months ago. She hosted an online summit. She invited me to be a guest on her summit. And I realized Becky's the type of person that after you meet her, even after a half hour of talking to her, you feel like you've known her for a long time. And when I experienced the summit she put together and have seen some of her other content that I've become familiar with, I thought, boy, she would be a wonderful guest for us to bring on Platform Launchers because she has a lot of experience with a lot of things. And I just want to introduce her to you. So, Becky, welcome to the Platform Launchers podcast.
Well, hi, John. Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be a blast. So, all right, for starters, give us all a great overview of all the things that you're doing online, but then immediately jump right into how you even got interested in all of this stuff.
Oh, well, I began as an author. I love to write. I love to weave words. That's my heart. And I've been writing for the Lord for a long time. And I decided at one point I wanted to write a book, and that led me to start a blog, which, and what was it? 2011. That's what everybody did. They started a blog. And then I was one of those fortunate people, right time, right idea. And I did get a book contract fairly early on with a relatively small platform. And that has just grown since. So now I have 3 traditionally published books out there. I have 2 other books that are works for hire with Our Daily Bread. And so I continue to write books. I love writing books. But I also discovered, also fairly early on, that traditionally published books are not a huge moneymaker. And I was spending a lot of time blogging, serving a growing audience, trying to be present on social media, doing all the things to support my ministry, which, as we know, when we write books, it is really equated to an online ministry because we need to be serving our audience online. A publisher expects us to serve an audience online. And so I found that I was draining not just my time, but also my family bank account by trying to support my book habit, my book hobby, as my husband and I joked, or not so joked, at one point. And so I just discovered that I needed to figure out a way to generate some income from my content. And that is now my sweet spot. I found, for me personally, digital products are the most fun way that I have found to generate recurring income from my content. And now I just have a continued passion for serving others, not just through writing books, but also through teaching other, especially faith-based content creators, how to generate that residual income from their content with digital products. So that's where I stand. That's what the Inspired Business is all about.
And you do a great job with it. And those of you that are listening to the podcast here, if you're checking us out on YouTube, some of you may know my background is in faith-based podcasting and faith-based writing. And so I have a real appreciation for those that create faith-based content. And Becky, one of the things that you do really well is you blend those two worlds. So I listen to your podcast. I've been checking out the things that you post online ever since I became familiar with your content. And I think there's many people in the faith-based space that are at times, I don't know, maybe hesitant to even talk about some of these business-related things. And I certainly see that a lot. And I would even say that at some point in my life, that was probably the case. But you're teaching people how they can take the knowledge that they have and they could turn it into digital products and they could share that with an audience. And before you know it, their family is reaping the benefits and the blessings of that. That has to feel good.
Oh, absolutely. But it really is just a way to honor God with the gifts he's given us and to honor my family by turning the gifts into provision. Really, it's all by his hand anyway, but the worker deserves his or her wages. And so that's really that's the platform, so to speak, that I stand on, which is that I am working no differently from anybody else who's called to a vocation. I have been called to creating content as a vocation, to coaching now as a vocation, and a vocation is worthy of pay. Nobody would tell the dentist that he or she shouldn't get paid for a filling. And likewise, I don't see why I shouldn't also get fair compensation for the work that God has called me to do. So that is a big part
100%.
too of the coaching that I do for other Christian content creators, because there's a big hang up there, and not necessarily because we feel we don't deserve to be paid, but because our audiences sometimes need to be coached in the idea of exchanging our services and our knowledge for money, because they've also it's been drilled into them that if it's ministry, it should be free. But, and John, I'm going to guess you're going to be in support of the idea that ministry pastors, for example, probably should get a salary, don't you think?
It usually seems like a good idea, because most of the guys that I've met that are doing this, they enjoy eating food and they like living in
Yes,
houses. So
exactly.
with those stipulations, they do tend to like getting paid a little bit, at least
Yes,
something.
yes. And the thing of it is the Christian, there is a Christian economy. There is an economy surrounding Christian goods. You walk into a Christian bookstore and you're going to have to pay for a Bible, right? Or you're going to have to pay for a CD. Like we were, before we got on the air, we were talking about all of our favorite music from back in the 90s, and those CDs cost money. And so Christian bands, they cost money. To go to a concert, it costs money. To buy a baptism gift, it costs money. And because of that, we're already engaged in the commerce of faith-based goods. If you walk into church and the lights are on, somebody is affording that with money. So it's really no different for those of us who are called independently to be Christian content creators. And so I look at that as part of my responsibility of being in this economy, is to help customers engage with the idea that it is an honorable act to
Yeah.
ask for money in exchange for my services or my knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. And you offer a variety of things. So there's a whole slew of things that I see that you're doing online. And my opinion of it, as I've studied what you're doing and paid attention to it, and I would say, the past 6 months or so since I've known you, is that you're doing it well. And what I mean by that is, first of all, I see what you're doing is with integrity. So I appreciate that. I see that you're doing what you're doing with enthusiasm. So there's a lot of joy that surrounds it. But there's something else that I appreciate about the way you do things, and I haven't told you yet. And it's very simple. It's not revolutionary. It's just it's very simple. And that is, it's systematic, meaning
Yeah.
that it's not all over the place. That if I look at your content, I'm able to figure out what you're talking about and and the journey you're trying to take me on. I know whenever I try and speak, whenever I try and teach, whenever I try and put a course together, I'm always trying to take somebody on a journey, and I want to make it clear and plain. But I don't always find that every content creator has that kind of organized mindset. But your content seems organized that way. So I have a few specific questions about the kind of content you're creating. And I think that this will be valuable to those that are listening or watching via YouTube. I want to start off with digital products. I want to ask you some questions about digital products, and then I'm going to segue into a couple other things. But let's
Right.
start off with digital products. So let's say somebody would like to add some digital products to their platform. This is something here in Platform Launchers we're talking a lot about this month. This is kind of our theme of the month. So if someone wants to start with creating digital products, where would you encourage them to go, and what process would you encourage them to follow?
I encourage anyone who has been in this space for a while to look at the content you've already created. Chances are, if you've been blogging for a while, if you've written a book, if you've been coaching, if you've been podcasting, if you preach, if you teach, you have an arsenal of content that can be easily repurposed into a digital product. And repurposing content that we've already created is not cheating. It's a smart content process, because first of all, it is your original content. And the caveat here is that it cannot already have been published by someone else. Someone else cannot claim rights to it. But if you still own the rights to your content, what you're doing when you repurpose it into a digital product is you are creating a new experience for your customer, and you are repackaging that content in a way that delivers a clear conclusion and benefit to the customer. So let's say that I want to create a devotional, and I'm going to dig back through 10 years of blogging, and I'm going to find 30 blog posts that I repurpose, tweak a bit into a devotional format. That is not cheating, because I don't expect any of my customers to go back to my blog and sort through the hundreds of posts that I've written and come to some sort of logical, progressive conclusion. So I do it for them in creating that digital product. And that alone is worth the price tag that I put on the product, let alone the fact that it's meant to transform the customer in some form or fashion. So that's where I would start, always with the content you've already created.
Yeah, so that should get people's wheels churning a little bit here. There's got to
Yeah.
be something. There are files on your computer or on your website, whether it be audio files or video files or things that you've written that could be repackaged into some sort of digital offering. So
Yeah.
you don't even have to start from scratch. You could just start with content you already have. But now let's say someone's done that
Mhm.
and they want to take things to the next level. So let's
Sure.
say somebody, one of the things that I'm really fascinated with and have been doing more with is digital course creation.
Yeah.
So if someone said, all right, Becky Kopitzke, what are your opinions on creating digital courses? What's the best way to do it? And what are the do not do type actions? What advice would you give them?
First advice I always give is to be listening to your audience. If you have an existing audience, and now it is possible to create and sell digital products without a huge built-in audience, but let's just presume for the moment that you have one. And this is why you have a plethora of content, because you've been serving people for a while. Go and speak to your audience. Be listening to your audience, even when you're not asking direct questions, in conversations, in responses to your blog posts or your podcast. What are they saying? What are you hearing are their needs? But then I am big on a process that one of my coaches calls message mining, or really essentially it's market research. Go to speak to 4 or 5 people who fit your customer avatar. Get on a Zoom call with them, record the Zoom call, ask probing questions. I'm not saying, what do you struggle with? But think of what is the topic that you have identified that you want to build a digital product around, and ask, if you had a solution to this problem, how would that change things for you? Or if you could speak to an expert on this topic, what questions would you ask? And get to some really probing information that gets to the underlying pain points beneath the surface issue. And then send that recording to a service like Temi or Rev.com, and they will do, for a few dollars, they will transcribe that entire conversation, and you download a text document of that conversation, and you start highlighting, and you look for words that they've used, phrases that they've used to describe their pain points, to describe their problem, to describe what their hopes are for that transformed state. And you will start to see threads. You'll see themes from all of the conversations that you've had. And right there is your marketing copy. So I always start with what the customer wants, because often it's also going to shine a little bit of some light on a blind spot for us, which is, I thought I wanted to do this, but really my customers are saying they want this. And so be aware of what they're really asking for, because what that does for us, for an online course especially, is it guarantees, I say guarantees with air quotes because we can never officially guarantee, but it makes it far more likely we can be confident that our customers will buy, because we are developing a product that's not just one we think or assume is going to fit the bill. We are creating a product that they're actually asking for. And then you can begin the process of developing that product out into a course. And for that, I would treat it just as I do in writing a book. I just have a systematic process whereby I create the scripts for my lessons or my units, and then I will one by one record those. There are a variety of ways to record video from your own computer. And here's one thing I want to say, John, and I wonder if you would agree with this. I often see an obstacle in my clients, which is, I don't know how to be super professional. I am not a video editor. I am not a videographer. I don't have a beautiful backdrop. Get rid of all of that. It does not matter, especially since COVID. I think more people are accustomed to engaging online, to learning online, and authenticity is winning the day. So when I record, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, perhaps you're seeing I've got a backdrop here. That's just my bookshelf. It's functional. It's also a little bit Instagram worthy, but it is functional. And this is where I record everything that I do. It's just me sitting in front of my computer. What you don't see is my dog sleeping over here in the corner, my daughter doing her homeschool work in the other room, right? This is my real life. Invite people to enter into your real life. You do not need a Hollywood treatment for your online course. Just get your content out there, because your knowledge is what matters, not the beauty of the polished product.
So You asked me if I agree with that. I agree 100%. And I have a coaching question I'm going to ask you in just a second. But since you just brought up your dog, I have to tell people something funny. When
I
when
know where you're
Becky,
going with this.
yeah, when Becky interviewed me for her summit, and I have some summit questions I'm going to ask you in just a
Great.
little bit, but I think I had headphones on. You had asked me to wear headphones for the interview, I think, right? And
Yes.
yeah, so we all had we all had headphones on, and at one point, I'm doing my best to give her thoughtful answers to the questions that she's asking, and at one point, your dog just started barking so loud, and it came through your mic like it was like a train right in front of me, and I jumped. Now she edited all of this out of what she presented to her audience,
Yes.
but I jumped. I don't know that I've been that scared in my adult life, Becky. Your
I'm so
dog
glad I
freaked
could
me out.
provide that for you, John. And I apologize in advance for any dog that's going to bark in the middle of this conversation because this is, real life. I work from home and that's what
And your
it's
dog's gonna
okay,
bark. Well, I
my
think someone
dogs
came
are
to your
going to bark.
door. Someone
Yeah.
came to your door with a
Yeah, it was
package or
Amazon, of
something. Yeah.
course. Yes, Amazon came to the door. I mean, if you were a dog, you would bark too.
The nerve of Amazon to deliver
Yes.
something midday while you're doing an interview.
Right. Well, I will tell you though, I learned from that, John. After that process, for the rest of my interviews, I had a laminated sign that I put on my door that said, "Do not ring bell, recording in progress." I just
So
forgotten to put it up.
so I was the guinea pig that got scared
I'm
to death
so
for the sake of
sorry.
all future guests that don't have to do. It was actually funny. It made
Yes.
me laugh, and it's provided a good story ever since. But
I'm I'm
I,
I'm I'm grateful that you have such a good spirit about it. I will tell you that is actually I have two dogs and that one is the most gentle, sweetest dog ever. It's hilarious. And he was the scary barker because he
well,
would
your
just lick your
mic
face and love you.
your mic amplified it. That's what,
It
the
did.
combination of the microphone, the headphones, the whole deal. All right. So let me ask you the real question I was going to ask related to what you just said. So you gave us some really good counsel about finding out what your audience really needs and what they really want. And I suspect with how many years you've been creating platform related content, that there are people when they come to you for coaching, one of the coaching questions you probably get is, why is my content not selling, or why are people not utilizing this? And I'm wondering if there's if your primary related to that piece of advice.
Sure. Well, one key that I really try to focus on when coaching people in digital products and online courses is this whole idea that our buyers don't find us, we find them.
Hmm.
And yes, SEO can be excellent if you have the longevity of SEO behind you.
Mhm.
However, for a short-term launch, SEO is not necessarily going to be your most effective tool. Therefore, you need to figure out a way to go to where the people are. And I always encourage my clients to have a very well-oiled sales funnel, which is an automated process that you use to present your offer, to capture the sale, and then to nurture the customer after through email. And so the problem, not the problem, but the opportunity we have here is that we need to get what I call eyes on the funnel, which means we need to find people who are going to look at that first step, which is your entry point of your funnel, your sales page, or if you're doing what's called a freebie to tripwire sales funnel, that means you start with a lead magnet. Whether it's a lead magnet or a direct to sales page, that's the entry point where everybody finds you. And so all of our marketing efforts need to be focused on getting eyes on that funnel, on getting people to that initial page. And so that's where the growth happens. Now, I also, and I'm guessing you too, John, stand on this, that we need to make sure all of our marketing efforts are feeding our email list. Because in a perfect world, you can just email your list and get a plethora of dollars in your bank account from your offer or from launching a new product. But it takes a while to build that list. And so I encourage all marketing efforts to point to growing your email list so that you have a group of vetted buyers who are willing and ready to purchase your next new product. But meanwhile, we also ought to be engaging with them, whether it's through social media or through podcasting, through affiliate marketing. There are a variety of ways that, as you know, we can choose to promote our content, but it should all be pointed on getting people to eyes on that funnel, either into our email list and or to that entry point page of the sales funnel.
Yeah, that's good counsel. Very good counsel. And that's something I'm assuming you applied when you were recently setting up your online summit.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a learning experience for me. Great fun. I won't lie, it was a bundle of work, but
I
it was
believe it.
so rewarding. It was so rewarding. Yeah, and I'm especially grateful for the relationships that I built through that summit. Bringing you on to speak, John, still one of my favorite sessions in the entire summit. And so it's minus the dog barking. It was
Minus the
very
dog
rewarding.
People just had to hear me bark.
You should have.
Yeah, I probably should have. But so, all right. So let's segue the conversation into that summit because that's where we first learned of each other and what each person was building. And so, tell us if a listener or viewer right now isn't highly familiar with an online summit, give us the high level view of it, and then tell us how you pulled it off. How did you make your summit succeed? Because from my perspective, it was very successful.
Yeah, I am actually very proud of how the summit turned out, certainly due to the excellence of the guest speakers. And we were very, very proud of the product we were able to deliver. But from a high level, an online summit is a collection of guest experts who are either providing Q&A conversation or a pre-recorded, pre-planned lesson or teaching of some sort. You can have as few as 5 people. You can have as many as 30 plus, like we did. And
Mhm.
you gather these experts together to speak into a topic or a theme that is closely connected to the heart of your ministry or your business. And everyone comes together to share on a certain angle. And you record these either in advance or you conduct them live. And it's like an online conference, really. It's bringing a variety of voices together, and then you invite people to register to attend. And those people who attend, typically, in the model that I used, is a free summit. So anyone could participate in this summit. And we gave everyone a full week to engage in all the content. We had 30 plus speakers, so we had 8 or 9 people who were released each day. Their pre-recorded Q&A conversations were released each day for 4 days, but then everyone had until the end of the weekend to listen, to catch up on anything that they still wanted to listen to. However, if they could also they had the option of choosing a premium pass, which is the one paid option. So again, totally free, anybody can participate. But that paid option enabled people to have a full year of access so that they didn't have to figure out how do I listen to all 30 plus during this week. But now you've got a full year to listen to all of the content, to go back to it if you want to. And there were also some bonuses involved in that premium pass. And then what we did in order to make it worthwhile for our speakers is we invited them to participate in sharing about the event so that they could also get paid on any upsells. So for example, John, you had an affiliate link. So anyone who signed on for the summit through you and chose to participate in that upsell of the premium pass, a percentage of that sale went back to your ministry. And that alone was, I feel, anytime I participated in summits, that alone is a great reward. But also, we encouraged all of our speakers to share some sort of a lead magnet or a sales offer. How could our listeners get to work with you? How could they learn more about you? So it was really designed to support a variety of voices, experts that are in this field of Christian content business,
Mhm.
but also to equip all of the content creators who are out there who are looking for trusted information in this field, especially when we're figuring out how to build a presence online, but how do we do it in a way that honors God? So that was what was unique about the summit. I will tell you, though, the other thing that was somewhat unique is that many summits are video based.
Mhm.
We chose to do audio only. We called it a summit on the go. We wanted people to be able to engage with these interviews like a podcast. So, and
Mhm.
we created it in one of my favorite tools, which is Kajabi, and they have
Oh, yeah.
a mobile app. So people could just flip open the app and listen to a couple of episodes on their commute or when they're driving the kids to the football game or whatever it might be. And so we got a lot of feedback that was a really convenient option and people enjoyed that. So for all intents and purposes, we considered it a great success and we got such tremendous feedback. I'm very grateful I had the opportunity to run that summit. And it was profitable on top of it. And so you certainly can't complain when an endeavor is profitable. It's why we do what we do. But more than that, it also was a great opportunity for me to grow my email list because
Mm.
all of those experts now were sharing with their people inviting them to attend the summit that they had spoken at. And many of them didn't know about my business, but when they registered for the event, they got onto my email list. So now I'm able to continue in building a relationship with them through email. So that's a summit in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it seemed to me like it all came together very well. By the way, I also loved the audio option that you offered there. I thought that was a really great approach to it. And as far as marketing, you have all of the guest experts that you've invited to do interviews, so they're helping you with marketing. What other marketing tool were you able to use so your already existing email list? I guess you would use that as well.
Yep. Existing
Anything
email
else
list.
that was helping you with marketing?
We did some organic social media. I lean on paid social ads, depending on the season. And so I ran a few ads. I didn't do a huge campaign to the summit, but primarily the affiliate relationships, some social media, some paid ads were really the three buckets that I focused on for marketing. And word of mouth is just, it's tremendous for an event like a summit.
Totally.
And others who were even not just through those who were the guest experts sharing, but even others who had attended said, I really enjoyed this. You've got to sign up for it. So it always helps when people enjoy your content and want to share it with others. And then too, though, we tried to make it very, very easy for our guest experts to share. So we provided marketing assets, we provided images, swipe copy. We tried to make it as simple as possible for them to share. I highly recommend, if you're going to host a summit, that you treat your guest experts as well as possible so that they are motivated to share and they know that they are the reason your event is going to be a success.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. So out of that, so you mentioned that you basically offered the summit as kind of like a podcast, a summit on the go in a sense. And since that summit, you have launched your podcast.
Yes.
And how's that going for you so far?
Amazingly great. Within the first couple of weeks, we're in the top 2.5% of podcasts. And so I'm still kind of pitching myself over that. It's been going really well. I get a lot of great feedback. We did a campaign asking for reviews, and we've got some just glowing reviews, but I'll tell you, John, I don't actually read my reviews, not on podcasts,
I noticed
not on
that
books.
because before we started this podcast, I told Becky that I left her a review. She asked for reviews. And so I left her a review and she hasn't even read it. So
no, I don't.
I think I left it like 2 months ago. Come on now.
No, you're so kind. I'll have to hunt just for yours. So because I assume it was glowing. If it wasn't glowing,
it was
I'm sending my dog on you.
And by the way, yeah, please don't. I've already been scared to death once by your dog. But for those of you that are on YouTube, here's the cover art for Becky's podcast, The Inspired Business. And you could even tell as you look through my screen here that I've listened to most of the episodes. I've got a few that I haven't, but I've listened to most of the episodes. There's 13 episodes and growing. So definitely check it out.
Started in October and it has been going well. I will tell you, and I know you are experienced at this, but it is a challenge to stay on top of content for a podcast. And I'm learning that. some weeks the hard way, but it's been fantastic because it's a great opportunity to be responsive to what my clients and my customers are asking for. And so I tune my ear to say, what are they talking? What are the common questions coming at me this week? And maybe I'll do an episode on that. So it really is, it is timely in that way, but it's been great fun and I'm learning as I go. And so, like you said, I'm only 13 episodes in, but really aiming not to be one of those flash in the pan podcasts that starts and 6 months later is gone.
Yeah. You don't want a pod fade?
No, I don't.
So the podcast is called The Inspired Business, and you definitely want to check it out. Very helpful. It's for a couple of reasons it's helpful. You give very practical information, but I also like the fact that you demystify some of the things that I think many of us who are involved in creating online content of a variety of kinds, we hear these terms, we see these approaches, we see people doing different things. We think, oh, could I do that? They must just be professionals or hired professionals, and you demystify it so that you make it a little bit easier for people to find this accessible. That's what we're trying to do here as well. But that's also why I feel very comfortable giving a full-throated endorsement for your show, because it has that same spirit of saying this isn't impossible. This is not out of reach. This is something that you could do.
Yeah.
And people get to hear from your stories and your experience why it's possible for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really the heart of it is teaching and in helping people to understand it isn't that complicated. And so I do take a systematic approach to here's step one and here's step two. And then I want you to look at step three, because that's how I learned. I'm really self-taught. I'm self-taught in this whole area of digital products and blogging and online platforms, and it's a wild ride. And so I wish I had had a guide through it.
Mhm.
So that's why when folks like you and I can be that to other people, I just feel like that's a great blessing for me in my life,
Totally.
because I would have I kind of like to joke and say I would have liked to have had a me 10 years ago.
Yep.
but all of us, right? When we look back and say, wow, I wish I knew then what I know now. But I'm trying to ease the journey for others so that they don't have to look back in 10 years and say, I wish I knew then,
100%.
because I want to be the person to help them know it now.
Definitely. So you're saving people time, you're helping people figure things out. You're also reminding people, listen, if somebody like me can do this, you can do it too. You can just do it
Yeah.
faster because now you have the roadmap.
Exactly. Exactly. Making it more efficient, I think, for people. None of us has more time, right? That's the
Right.
one thing we all have little of, and we're trying to maximize, make the best of. And so I am often praying for God to maximize my time. But we're also all given the same 24 hours. So if we're meant to do something, I like to believe that it means it ought to be able to be done within the 24 hours that we've been given, with a little bit of sleep in between, even.
Yeah. On
So
occasion, it's probably
on
helpful to
occasion,
get some of that. I've heard. I've
I've
heard
heard
that's the
it's a
rumor.
good thing.
So here's how I know that what you're doing with the podcast is going to succeed. You're 13 episodes in and you haven't missed. And it's like
Not
clockwork.
yet.
Yeah, well,
Not
not yet,
yet.
but I bet you don't. And
I'm
if you
trying
miss,
not
that would
to.
be a very conscious decision on your part. It
It
wouldn't
would.
be, put it this way, it wouldn't be because you woke up one day and you're like, I don't feel like it. It's
No.
not going to be because of that. So,
No, it's not. That is very true. I am a little bit hyper about that. In fact, when I first started blogging, it took me 8 years to miss a week.
all
And
right,
so
fair
I don't know
enough.
if I'll be quite that good about podcasting, but I'm also learning to give myself a little more grace. It's the same reason that I don't read my reviews, John, is because, the whole praise of man, the danger of all that, right? But I also don't want to hear when somebody knocks me down, because I don't need that, right?
Yeah,
I want to keep going when I believe I've been called to do what I've been called to do, and I don't want to get myself derailed by non-constructive criticism.
right.
So, that will not be the reason that I skip a week, because I'm not going to read a poor review and think, oh, I'm worthless. I'm not
I,
ever going
I have
to do
failed.
another. Yes.
Isn't it funny how, you could receive, 35 kind words and then that one critique is the only thing your mind seems to focus on.
Yes.
Now, why
Yes.
do we
And
do that
yeah.
to ourselves?
I don't know why we do that to ourselves. And honestly, sometimes I think the negative reviews are the most telling and sometimes the most funny. One of the worst review I've gotten on one of my books was, you have to open the Bible to read this book. I thought, oh, you couldn't have given me a better review. You just needed to add a few more stars to it.
You want to hear my worst review?
I want to know it. Yes.
This is my worst book review. It says something to the effect of, got it free, didn't read it. 1 star. I'm like, you got it free and you didn't read it,
And you
and you give
didn't
it
read
1
it.
star. It's like, thanks.
Thanks a lot. Right.
Thanks.
That's really
I wish
helpful
I
to
could
me.
rate the reviewer and be
I know.
like reviewing things he didn't read. 1 star. Take that.
Right? Oh my goodness. It's crazy, which is why, I try not to bank too much on reviews one way or another,
No,
but I
of
do know
course.
that they have a place in the algorithms and all of that.
Of course.
They matter, and that's why we ask for them. But I ask for honest reviews. Actually, no, I don't. If you don't give me 5 stars, I don't want your review.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's be honest, right? That's the
I ask
truth
for
for every
polite
author.
reviews. I ask for favorable reviews.
Yes.
Well, this is fantastic. Becky, I want listeners to platform launchers to be able to know where they can find all the content that you're putting out there. So where can they go next, and what do they need to know from you next?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. You can find all about me at theinspiredbusiness.co. That's a .co. And there, if you find on my landing page, I've got an opportunity that one of the starting places, as we were talking about eyes on the funnel, starting point for me is actually an hour-long free masterclass on digital products. And from there, you'll learn about some opportunities that ways we could continue to work together, but I also have a variety of services. So if you go onto my website and you go to the top, and you'll see courses and resources and lots of ways that we could work together, or just follow my podcast. That would be such an honor to me if you would be interested in following my podcast. I'm always keeping people posted through the podcast and what's going on at the Inspired Business. But I just love to make new friends and hear from new content creators that I haven't met before. So whether or not you purchase anything from me, I would just love to hear from you. So feel free even just to drop me an email.
Awesome. All right. Theinspiredbusiness.co, and the podcast is the Inspired Business Podcast. Becky Kopitzke has been our guest this week for Platform Launchers. So for sure, check out everything that she's got available on her site. Thank you so much, Becky, for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun, just like I thought it would be.